Remember, it's one for all, and all for one.
Hey, what do you think's up with that guy?
Soccer is a sport
acting
played by
pretty
teams
weird.
of 11. You can't do it alone.
The heart of a striker is one of pure magnificence. If you find yourself as the position of a striker, you are the absolute man. You are the Haalands, you are the Mbappes of the world, you are the one bringing home the World Cups and club trophies. And as magnificent as it may sound to be a striker, not everybody is built for it. Not everybody can deal with the fame, the glory, the pressure, and the heartbreak that comes with being a striker, so only a select few of people are able to qualify. And to qualify for the position of striker, some people may believe that this is something that you were born for. Some people think that you are a natural. They look at someone like Mbappe in the World Cup and think he was born for this. But there is an anime that challenges this notion, but not only challenges it, but insults it for its lazy and unambitious ideology for ever even thinking this was the case. And on top of this harsh criticism, it gives you a step-by-step guide to becoming a striker, and a step-by-step guide from transforming from an average Joe to an absolute genius. What is a striker? What is in the heart of a striker? And if you were to take the DNA of somebody called a striker, what would you find? All questions that are answered in Muneyuki Kanesheiro's Blue Lock, and more specifically through our main character, Isagi Yoichi. And it's through Isagi's journey these questions are answered. We figure out what you need to do to become a striker, what it means to be a striker, and more importantly, what's in the heart of a striker. Isagi's journey to becoming a striker starts in the very first episode, which I believe to be the perfect pilot episode. Episode 1 of Blue Lock, titled Dream, starts with Isagi Yoichi on his high school soccer team, playing in a game that'll decide whether or not he goes to nationals. And as his high school days are becoming dimmer, he feels that this game is the only chance he has to become someone. And this episode takes us right to the climax of this match, showing Isagi on a 2-on-1 breakaway with seemingly the fate of this match in his hands. He sees an opportunity to score and send his teams to nationals, but at that moment right there, he sees his other teammate wide open with seemingly a better shot to make it to nationals. And as the appointed striker of the team, Isagi is tempted to take this shot and take all the glory that comes with it. But then all of a sudden, his coach interrupts him and says, "Remember Isagi, it's one for all and all for one." And this snaps him back into reality. He realized that he cannot be this selfish when playing soccer, because at the end of the day, soccer is played with 11 guys and not just one. So Isagi overcomes these selfish ambitions and he passes it to his more open teammate, pretty much guaranteeing the shot at nationals. So he passes it to him, he shoots, and he misses. He misses, the other team takes it, scores, ball game. Isagi is out. Isagi is out of nationals contention and once again is going home a loser. His coach congratulates him for his teamwork and commends the team for being able to work together, but you can tell this whole situation is rubbing him the wrong way. And on his way home, Isagi loses it on his bike. He's seemingly frustrated, as if it was some sort of pent-up rage he's had his whole life, frustrated with his existence, frustrated with the chance that he's not going to be able to be who he wants to be. There was a part of him that wanted to take the shot. He knew he could have made the shot, but something in him, almost as if it was programmed, told him to pass the ball because he wanted to do what was best for the team. But when you try to put the team first in front of your own individual abilities, you may come to situations like this. So as Isagi enters his home, mad and upset that he's not going to nationals, he receives a letter, an invitation to join Blue Lock. The Blue Lock is essentially a 300-man battle royale, composed of the top strikers in high school, and with the one man coming on top being guaranteed a spot on Japan's national team. And Isagi obviously takes this. Isagi thinks that this is the only chance he has to be whatever he wanted to be. But as soon as he gets to the Blue Lock, actually, he realizes that something's off. And as Isagi is standing in this Blue Lock opening ceremony, standing amongst hundreds of strikers in Japan, among one of them the striker who just eliminated him, he meets Ego. Ego is the owner, or better yet, the creator of the Blue Lock, and he stands atop of that stage and gives a speech that Isagi was not quite ready for. He goes on to say that Japan soccer is horrible, and the reason for it is because of everyone's self-righteous philosophy of being a team. So many talents from Japan become absolute garbage under this ideology, not being able to fully reach their capabilities due to these constraints. And this is how so many diamonds in the roughs become wasted potential. But Ego says he rejects this philosophy of teamwork and companionship, and the only way to be a true striker is to adopt one of selflessness, ambition, ego. And becoming this person will make you the shining star of any team you play on, because at the end of the day, the goal of soccer isn't just to play with 11 guys, it's to score more goals than the team in front of you. So Ego invites these nominees to the Blue Lock if they dare, because what they're going to get themselves into is something they've never seen before. And not only that, the stakes are being raised so high to its absolute peak. Losing in the Blue Lock does not mean you get to go home to your families and your high school teams. Losing to the Blue Lock means you never play soccer ever again. Ego's speech is met with so many confused and shocked and almost offended faces, but there is only one person who takes Ego's challenges head on: Isagi Yoichi. So he becomes the first person to accept his invitation to the Blue Lock, but the challenges that awaits him there is something that's daunting. But challenge is something he's ready for, as in his preliminary selection round, he's tasked with playing a game of essentially a soccer version of hot potato. The clock is winding down, but Isagi is finally hit with the soccer ball with only 1 minute left. 1 minute left to do something with his life. 1 minute left to find somebody to hit, or else his soccer career is over. And as Isagi is running frantically finding somebody to hit, and with everyone else seemingly evading all of his attacks, he finally sees Igarashi. Igarashi is the lowest ranked player in the Blue Lock, and just coincidentally, he sprained his ankle. And as Igarashi is laying there, trying to get up on one foot, the ball rests at Isagi's feet, and he has a decision to make. Will he prey on the weak by hitting Igarashi with the ball, essentially continuing down his path of choosing the safe option and never getting better? Or will he change his life? Will he do something with this opportunity he's never done before? Will he evolve? And in that moment, evolve he does, as he realizes that he came to this Blue Lock not to become a continuation of the person he is, but to rebuild his own person and to become something better, to become a striker. And as he has that ball in his foot, Bachira gives him the greatest pass of all passes, and he realizes that in order to be a striker, you need to take out the strongest person there. And near instantly, almost as it was some sort of knee-jerk reaction from something deep down inside of him, he found the strongest player in that room, and as those seconds wane down to 0, he kicks that ball with all the force he has left in his body. And he hits Kira in the face. Kira, the person who beat him in the finals. Kira, the person who eliminated his chances to be his best. And Kira, the person who made him realize that teamwork does not make his dream work. He eliminates him and all the baggage that comes with him. And just like that, our first episode concludes and Isagi Yoichi stands atop of him, reborn. But Isagi's journey to becoming a striker does not end here, as the Blue Lock is only just beginning. Isagi realizes very quickly that his journey throughout Blue Lock would be a tough one, as he realizes that his peers around him have exceptional talents like physical strength, speed, ball control, and while Isagi is just average. Isagi doesn't do anything horrible, but he also doesn't do anything exceptional. And when it comes to trying to be the best striker in the world, average doesn't cut it. Average doesn't cut it when you want to be the best. So now Isagi's goal is trying to figure out how he can maintain an advantage, just even the smallest one, over everybody in the Blue Lock. And he does this by having encounters with the true geniuses of soccer. His first one was with Bachira, as he realizes pretty quickly that Bachira is someone who is extremely gifted in the game of soccer, and he knows that deep down, he's somebody that Isagi wants to be like. He was amazed by Bachira's gall to steal the ball from him in that hot potato game, But he was even more amazed that he knew he trusted Isagi to make that shot when he passed it to him. Him and Bachira have an unspoken connection, and that's something Isagi really wants to hone in on if he wants to improve his skills as a striker, and thus improving his chances at surviving in the blue lock. So when he's training with Bachira before his big match against Team X, he's taught that there's a monster inside of him, and if he listens to that monster unconditionally, it'll take him places that he never thought he could reach. And through Bachira's lesson brings us to the second genius he encounters, Baru, or better yet, King Baru. Baru is a talent that even somebody like Bachira couldn't replicate. Baru immediately had his presence commanded by his teammates around him, and in a game that seemed all too frantic trying to turn 0 into 1, Baru took control over almost immediately. The audience, along with Isagi, can't help but to look in awe at Baru's sheer greatness. So he realizes that in order to become the best striker, Baru is somebody he's going to have to surpass. But for now, he just wants to replicate what he can do, turning 0 into 1. And after this encounter, that's all Isagi tries to think about. How can Isagi, with his abilities in his current state, turn 0 into 1 just like Baru did? And it's only until his match with Team Y, once he encounters Nico, where he really starts to figure it out. And during the match, he notices that Team Y is as dangerous as ever, but he doesn't really see a star of the team like Team X. Confused by trying to figure out which one of the strikers is doing this, which one of the strikers is turning 0 into 1, he realizes that the true heart of the team isn't by the people scoring the ball, it's by the one who's passing it to them. And this is where Isagi meets Nico, and he realizes that they're both all not that different from each other, as they both wouldn't mind giving up the spotlight and setting up their teammates for the best position to win. So now knowing that, Isagi is now able to correctly predict Nico's movements as it would be his own if in that position, and he's able to really turn the game around for Team Z. And this is how Isagi develops the ability to smell a goal, and during his climax of his match with Team Y, Nico is put in a position where he has the opportunity to end the game for good and send Isagi home forever. But instead of taking that game-ending shot, he passes it to his teammate because the chance for a goal was a lot higher with him instead of with Nico. Isagi sniffed out this goal from a mile away, and he told Nico that if you weren't going to be able to take that shot to send me home, you were unfit to be a striker. And as soon as that happens, Isagi can smell a goal from himself now. So as he's running on this breakaway, he's thinking to himself all the times where he's given up that last shot, all the times where he succeeded his mentality as a true striker, but now he knows that he has to be one. So just like in the first episode, Bachira sets him up with a pass of all passes, and Isagi finally hits his direct shot, being reborn once again. This rebirth of Isagi Yoichi gives him a whole new type of confidence that he can play with now. Not many people can say that in a mere matter of days, you were able to change everything about yourself and be reborn into a better and more efficient soccer player. And not only that, during his match against Team Y, he was able to hone in on his abilities and really identify what makes him a truly great striker. And knowing this provides ample opportunity to get better via practice, because not only do you know what you're good at and you know what you can sharpen in practice, we also know what you're not so good at and things you can need work on. That match, that realization, that rebirth was something that was so important to Isagi for his journey as a striker. You can only help to imagine what that would have been like if he knew this, let's say, in the first match against Baru. At this point, it's very obvious for the reader and the audience to point out that Isagi is echelons of skill ahead of what he was when he first entered the Blue Lock, but he comes to realize very shortly that even though he goes through this rebirth, that's not all he needs to become the best striker in the world. And this notion isn't challenged any better than in his last and hardest match against the Nagi-led Team V. Team V is the highest ranked team in Blue Lock, and it's full with a star-studded cast full with Nagi, Mikage Ryo, and Tsurugi. And not only that, this Nagi-led Team V hasn't won a game by any less than 6 goals, so to say the least, Isagi is in trouble right now. But Isagi has done all this improving. I mean, didn't you see his match against Nico? He is clearly leagues ahead of what he was before. This shouldn't be a problem for him. But as soon as the match starts, Isagi, along with the rest of Team Z, is taken back by the abilities of this team, more specifically, Ryo's ability to facilitate an offense and Nagi's unbelievable ability to control the ball. So as a symptom of being completely overwhelmed by this star-studded team, Isagi, along with the rest of his teammates, find themselves down 3-0. And this is so drastic because, due to the blowout loss by Team X by the hands of Baru, this game is a must-win for Isagi and his team. Not a draw, not a lose, they have to win the game. So coming back from a 0-3 deficit is quite a tall order for Isagi, and he realizes that this is something he's going to have to do because if he doesn't, he never gets to play soccer ever again. And while the crushing reality of the chance of everybody being sent home sets in, Team Z starts to break down. They don't know what to do and they start to panic. But there's one person on that team who seems to be calm. It's Bachira, the man whose confidence has never wavered even for a single moment throughout this show. And not only is Bachira still confident, he actually gets excited by being down like this. He glamorizes and admires the true specialty of Team V, not because they're at a place he'll never reach, it's because it's at a place he will reach. So he looks over at Isagi and he tells him not to be worried. Don't worry, Isagi, you need not to be scared. Just listen to the monster inside of you. Because what the monster is telling me is that in desperate situations like these, you shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't be worried about not playing soccer again. You should be excited. Excited to be great. Excited to be special. If you've exhausted all your abilities to the max but find a way to score, does that not mean you surpassed your limits? Does surpassing yourself not excite you, Isagi? Isn't this the point of Blue Lock? Isn't this the point of you being in the Blue Lock, Isagi? Us as strikers are always trying to evolve and become a better player. Is this not the perfect opportunity to do so? So Bachira tells Isagi to overcome his fears by surpassing his limits, and with that, the fear will subside and the only thing left will just be joy. Joy to becoming the greatest striker of all time. Joy that at the end of this match, you may be somebody unrecognizable from the start. Bachira's energy radiates to Isagi and once again becomes a guiding light to becoming a truly great striker. But not only that, Bachira's energy also radiated to the rest of the team because after watching the absolute spectacle of the Bachira first goal, everyone else started playing truly amazing. Goal after goal, everyone is surpassing their limits. Kunigami, Chigiri, and even Raichi is doing something to surpass his own limits. Isagi is seeming to reach his full capability, but he realizes that this is not enough to win this match. And Isagi wants to win so bad, Isagi wants to stay away from that old self that lost in the semifinals so bad, he's willing to do anything. And on the last play of the game, with the game tied 4-4, with Isagi needing to score in this goal, he doesn't smell it. And at first he's hurt, at first he's broken, at first he has that overwhelming fear of going back to what he was. But Bachi reminds him, Isagi, remember your goal. Remember your goal of achieving your dreams. Remember your goal of shedding your old self. And remember your goal of being the best striker in the world. And this is what triggers the iconic puzzle piece scene. And quite literally the most important moment of his soccer career, Isagi breaks down. He breaks down everything he knows about himself and everything he thought he knew about himself and the game of soccer, and he puts it all together. In life, when posed with the question, the most valuable skill you can have isn't knowing where the answer lies, but it's knowing where the answer doesn't lie. Knowing where and why something isn't the answer gives you infinitely more insight on what the true answer is in life. And this is what Isagi does. He breaks down everything he knows about himself in the game of soccer, and he accepts the fact that the Isagi he sees now is not enough and not the answer. So he gets over himself and he sheds his ego to find the answer to his dilemma, and he realizes to his surprise that it did not lie with anyone else on the field, it lied with his own mind. And this is where he awakens, and this is where Isagi is now in his best form. He realizes that something inside of him wanted to take that shot, but he couldn't factor it in his equation. He couldn't understand his formula for a goal. So as he's with that ball in his foot and Nagi chasing behind him, he realizes what he has to do. He looks over at Bachira and he knows. He knows that he has to be a striker. He knows that he wants to be the best in the world. So he takes that ball and he hits that direct shot. Ball game. Isagi wins. And from this point on in season 1, Isagi really seems to have figured it out. From single-handedly eliminating your high school rival out of the Blue Lock, to becoming that person who'll take the last shot in the final minutes, and from being that person who's able to deconstruct everything they know about themselves in order to surpass their limits and to become a striker, Isagi's journey has been nothing short of phenomenal. But while Isagi did a lot of his growing during the first selection, now that we're on to the second stage of the Blue Lock, you see that Isagi's confidence in himself wavers. And this is noteworthy to notice because up until this point, Isagi has been doing his growing and evolving as a part of the team. And this is important because he's able to do all this rebirth and deconstruction while still having the safety blanket of his teammates picking up his slack. And now, since the second selection moving forward requires you to be individually great all the time, that's a lot of pressure that Isagi was not ready for. And this is especially so when he loses to Itoshi Rin and he takes Bachira away from him. And this is important because at every stage of Isagi's development, Bachira was always there acting as the catalyst for him to change. Bachira was always training Isagi's monster. Bachira was the one who inspired Isagi to go after Kira in episode 1, and if you don't remember, Bachira was the one who inspired him in his match against Team V and even set him up for an assist for him to make his direct shot. So it makes sense that Isagi's confidence in himself isn't absolute, but during the rest of the show in season 1, he really makes some leaps and bounds to overcome this hurdle. In his 2v2 match against Baru and Naruhaya, he questions whether or not he's truly great. He sees Baru and Nagi competing at such a high level, he doesn't truly think deep down he'll be able to compete. And after some more thinking and evolving, Isagi realizes that he does have the capacity to be great, and he can still be the greatest striker in the world, and more importantly, he's not just an average Joe. And this upgrade in confidence leads him into his next hurdle in trying to play with Baru as a teammate. Even though Baru's talent and his power is overwhelming, this triggers Isagi to realize that his brand of soccer wouldn't work. And on top of that, he realizes that he can't keep being outshined by these geniuses if he truly wants to be the best striker. And this line of thinking jumpstarts one of the best moments in the show. Isagi decides to devour Baru and ultimately becomes the leader of his own team. And being able to overcome and essentially surpass the talent that once crushed you in the beginning of Blue Lock was something truly amazing to witness. Isagi's confidence is rolling, and it really showed in his rematch against Itoshi. From what he thought was witchcraft at first, Isagi is really starting to understand this offense of Itoshi. And Isagi understood it, so he was able to even best Itoshi in some moments in the match, someone who he thought was untouchable. Isagi really brought everything to his match, and even though the reason he lost was just a string of bad luck, Itoshi, along with the rest of the team, was able to recognize that Isagi bested them. And that is quite the accomplishment for him, and even more so once you realize that he did all of these great things without the help of Bachira. And him being able to do this on his own accord is a true testament to what's really going on in Isagi's heart. Strikers love winning, and on top of that, they like the power that they get from being able to crush somebody's hopes and dreams. But on the flip side of that coin, they feel demoralized. They lose their spirit once they taste that bitter taste of defeat. And Isagi, through multiple points of this show, has been a loser in every sense. But he was not a loser in the sense that he let that weight of defeat crush him and ultimately his dreams along with it. He was able to evolve. He was able to learn from his mistakes, and he was able to become a better striker. And this is the main difference between Isagi and anyone else in the Blue Lock. He's not afraid to lose. He's not afraid to be in desperate situations where the fate of his career is on the line, because like Bachira said, when in a desperate situation, you should be happy, as this is a chance to surpass your limits and become greater than you've ever been before. And surpass his limits he did. Isagi at the start of the show was a high school failure, and along with that was the lowest ranked player in the entire Blue Lock. But through mere willpower and hard work alone, Isagi was able to shed his old personality, surpass some of the greatest minds in Blue Lock, and by anyone's standards, become a true star. But is Isagi really who he thinks he is? Is Isagi a true striker? From what we know so far, strikers need to have ego. Strikers need to know how to turn 0 into 1. Strikers need to know what their individual ability is. Strikers need to know what their formula is for goals. Strikers need to know how to awaken when that formula doesn't work. Strikers need to know how to devour individuals and become the true star of their own team. And on top of all of that, strikers just need a little bit of luck. And can Isagi Yoichi do all of this? Yes, 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 and yes. But does this mean he's a true striker? Does this mean he is who he wants to be? Does this mean he became the striker he always strived to be as a kid? I have bad news. Blue Lock hasn't told us that yet. But I have better news. Isagi's journey also isn't over yet. And as we follow his journey further, we will learn more about what it means to be a striker. And while he may not be there just yet, I truly believe in my heart of hearts that Isagi Yoichi is well on his way. But until then, Isagi, keep on evolving. Thank you.